guys, what's going on? Zazubaar here, and I am here to give you a brief, fairly brief, anyway, review of the last episode of Doctor Who, the 2014 Christmas special, Last Christmas, as aired on Christmas night this year. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna go into any spoilers on this one because I like to usually keep these kind of brief, gut reactions to Doctor Who episodes short and non-spoiler, but I don't know if we're going to say much about it in the upcoming episode of the Demons from Outer Space, and I'm definitely not planning on doing a spoiler review of it, because honestly, there's really not that much spoiler stuff to get into that would be really impactful, and I'm sure most Doctor Who fans have seen it already, but just in case, I'll keep it non-spoiler for the first 5 minutes and then go into some spoilers later, maybe. We'll see how this review goes. But with all that said, let's get into the Doctor Who Christmas special, Last Christmas. So, I was really looking forward to this one because of how they left off Death in Heaven, the Series 8 finale of Doctor Who. Because there were a lot of rumors going around that Death in Heaven was going to be the end of Clara's run as the companion on Doctor Who for the 12th Doctor. And the ending of that episode seemed to give some weight to that as her and the Doctor leave. They part ways, though not on the best of terms, with both of them lying to each other. The Doctor saying that that he has spoilers for Series 8 of Doctor Who. The Doctor saying that he has found Gallifrey in the coordinates that the Master gave him at the end of that episode before she was killed, or at least supposedly killed. And Clara saying that Danny came back from the dead and they are now living happily ever after, and that she can no longer travel with the Doctor. So they both lie to each other, saying that they're both happy and that they're kind of satisfied with the lives that they're going to lead, but obviously that's not true. And at the end of that episode, or at least during the credits, somebody came knocking on the TARDIS door to set things right. And that was, of course, Santa Claus, building into the Christmas special for this year, Last Christmas. So, let's get into this, shall we? My expectations for this were, again, pretty high, because I wanted to see how all this stuff was going to get wrapped up, whether or not the Master was going to be somehow involved in this special, how exactly the Doctor and Clara were going to get back together, if they were going to get back together, how everything would be resolved, would Danny come back to life, all of these questions. And most of them were answered in a pretty satisfying way, a pretty comprehensive way. This was a really enjoyable Christmas special. It was really it was fairly basic in terms of the scope of the thing. In terms of comparing it to, like, Time of the Doctor, where that had an enormous scope and it was a really big universe-changing Christmas special. Obviously, that ended Matt Smith's run, had the regeneration in it, so that was big. Again, yeah, same thing as kind of the end of time. So there's kind of a precedent for two different kinds of Christmas specials. You've got stuff like that, where it's a Doctor leaving and a big war kind of situation. And then you've got stuff like A Christmas Carol or The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, where it's kind of a smaller story that's more focused on the Christmas angle and not so much on continuity, changing the universe and stuff. This is more like that, though it's a little bit more of a balance because it is dealing with some of the baggage left over from Series 8. And it deals with it in a decent way, as I said. Not a fantastic way. I feel some elements were left a little bit kind of out to dry in terms of emotions of the characters. Mainly the Doctor, and this special has the problem that I've said that all of Series 8 has had, and that is just way too much focus on Clara and her relationship with Danny. Now look, there is, of course, episodes in Doctor Who that focus way more on the companion. There are whole seasons that focus more on the companion, and usually a companion's season will focus on them and give them a story arc to go along with the overarching story of the season, like Amy in seasons 5 and 6, and Clara in season 7. However, I've always thought that there really needs to be a balance between telling the companion story and telling the Doctor's story. Because the Doctor usually has something to go through in that season as well. in Season 5, again, spoilers, the Doctor was dealing with having to reboot the universe and the fact that his TARDIS exploded and sealing up all these cracks that were screwing around with time, and the sacrifices that he had to make in order to make that happen. Series 6, similar situation. You've got a military organization, or not really military, it's kind of a religious cult, as we learned later, trying to kill the Doctor because of his impact on time. And you've also got the stuff going on with Amy and Rory and River Song. But I thought it was all balanced. This season has been a little bit way more focused on the companion, on Clara and Danny's story, than it has been on the Doctor. And what's really disappointing about that to me personally is that we just had an enormous shift in the Doctor's character at the end of Matt Smith's run. And I feel that this season has been a little bit too not forthcoming with information about the new Doctor, about Capaldi, and about his Doctor's perceptions of what happened at the end of Matt Smith's run, about how the events on Trenzalore changed him, and about how the fact that Gallifrey is back changed him. I feel that it's been a bit touch and go with how they explore his perceptions of that and his emotional response to that. I mean, we know, of course, that he's glad that Gallifrey is back, but it's hard to tell how he feels about not being able to find it, except in one really good scene in Death in Heaven where he punches in the coordinates that the Master gave him, and he ends up at the spot where Gallifrey was originally, and there's nothing there, and he just punches the control console over and over again. So we know that he's frustrated with his inability to find it. But the thing that everybody thought Series 8 was going to be about was the quest to find Gallifrey. And it hasn't been about that at all. It's been about the Doctor doing what he always does, traveling around time and space, and just kind of exploring. And that's fine, of course that's what it should be like, but I thought that it was going to be kind of doing that while also looking for Gallifrey. So, scouring different sections of the universe, taking the Doctor to new places he hasn't been before, while looking for Gallifrey. I thought we were going to see some new things. And we did see some new things, of course, but I kind of missed that overarching story. The overarching story of the season, while fine, the stuff with the Master and Heaven and the Cybermen, wasn't as kind of impactful on the Doctor as I thought it could have been. Death in Heaven did some things to counteract that, giving the Doctor some great character stuff, but I felt like it was a little bit too focused on Clara and especially Danny. I've made my feelings on Danny Pink very clear in previous videos. I don't like that character. And it's frustrating because I'm not sure if I'm supposed to like him. He doesn't like the Doctor, and he loves Clara. But I like the Doctor. I watch the show for the Doctor. I like Clara as a companion, but as a character, she's sometimes a bit controlling and a little bit annoying. And I get that that's a character flaw that she has and something that she's dealt with over the course of the season, though not like she does anything to try and change it. It's just something that we have to live with. And I don't know if that's what... It doesn't really... It sometimes makes for... I was talking to somebody recently, somebody from school, who said that they absolutely hated this season. And I asked them why. And they said that the reason why was because they felt like they were watching a soap opera about Danny and Clara that every now and then threw the Doctor in. I disagree with that in that I feel that some of the episodes of Series 8 have been some of the best that Doctor Who has done, at least in New Who, in all of time, like Listen and Flatline. And there have, of course, been some really fun episodes like Into the Dalek and Robot of Sherwood and Mummy on the Orient Express and all those other episodes. Season 8 has been a solid season, but I do agree with them to the point of it's felt a little bit like we're watching this relationship drama that really doesn't have anything to do with the Doctor. It does in terms of the problems with their relationship stem from Clara's relationship with the Doctor, but it's not like it's the Doctor's fault. He didn't even know Clara was in a relationship with this dude until halfway through the season. Oh, I forgot to mention The Caretaker. The Caretaker is a fantastic episode as well. So I felt like that was a little bit of a problem, not just a major problem with the season. And to finally get into the Christmas special, that was something that carried over into the Christmas special, though not to the extent that as it's been in some episodes, um, like like in the Forest of the Night, or a little bit in Listen. As much as I like that episode, it feels a little bit like that. So this episode has that, certainly. Though not to a crazy extent where it made me hate it. In fact, I actually like a little bit the baggage left over from Series 8, and where it's all kind of wrapped up in terms of Clara and Danny's relationship. And thankfully, the relationship was explored through the plot of the episode in a way where it felt like a necessary character progression, and not just telling this relationship story with the story with the creatures being pushed into the background. I didn't feel that at all. I felt like they were perfectly balanced. I just felt that the Doctor himself's character development was a little bit shoved into the background for Clara's, and that's a little bit annoying. And I would have been more forgiving of it if this would have been Clara's last episode, which it's not. Which we know now. She is going to stay on for at least part of Series 9. But I just feel like the Doctor's got a little bit of the short end of the stick this season, especially with this different of a Doctor than what we've had in the past couple seasons. So, with all that said, I'm going to talk a lot more about specifics and how much I did really enjoy this. It was a very, it was a fairly small story, a fairly kind of classic-esque Doctor Who story with going to a claustrophobic location and dealing with an alien threat there, with the alien threat killing people, and the alien threat revealing things about the characters. That was all very, very classic Who, and very, very reminiscent of other Moffat Doctor Who stories. So it was a pretty good story in terms of that. I love the monster. The dream crabs were great. They're certainly not terrible. They're not the most original Doctor Who monster we've ever had, of course. There's a joke in the episode that I love, and this isn't really a spoiler. But you know what? Screw it. We're going to get into spoilers now. So if you haven't seen Last Christmas, this is the beginning of the spoilers. So, but just for you people who haven't seen it and want my basic thoughts, again, I really enjoyed it, though it's a little bit too... it's a little bit unbalanced in terms of dealing with the baggage left over from Series 8 on the Doctor's end, and too focused on Clara. But anyway, let's get on to spoilers. The Dream Crabs themselves were great. I love the joke about the facehuggers. I thought that was fantastic. This episode was filled with great jokes and great dialogue. Moffat continues to show his expertise in that department. Although the problems that have cropped up with his writing this season, which I've talked about and other Whovians have talked about as well, not all of which I agree with, but his writing has been a bit more problematic these past 2 seasons than they have been in the past. But I won't talk about that here, since I don't think those problems extend to this Christmas special. The joke about the alien was really, really funny, and it's something that I was thinking about the whole time, which was these things look like facehuggers. This whole thing is very reminiscent of Alien, and they bring that up, and it was great. So there were a lot of great jokes like that. All the stuff with Santa Claus was fantastic. Nick Frost was hilarious. He was impactful. He had a really great screen presence. So I have no problems with his performance. His characterization was a very unique Santa. Stephen Moffat in an interview said that he characterized his Santa Claus just like the real one. It's Doctor Who is still a kid show at heart. So he said that, of course, to keep up with with the children who watch the show. Though this was very much so stretching the line of how old the kids would have to be to watch it. I don't even know if the age of the kids who would see this would be old enough to even believe in Santa anymore. But anyway, I appreciate the effort. In terms of that, I felt that Santa was cool. He was more of an almost lovably arrogant Santa Claus than I think we've ever seen before. He's a little bit more weathered. He seems a little bit sarcastic. He seems a little bit more real, I suppose, than other more whimsical Santas. Though he still has a gigantic degree of whimsy and warmth about him. The elves were great. They were really, really kind of indignant and even more sarcastic than Santa was. Three of them were sharp as tacks. And those jokes were all great, and their characterizations were fantastic. Santa's place in the story was pretty strong. It wasn't what I think everybody expected it to be, but it made a lot of sense. It was well handled and very very well integrated into the story. It wasn't like it was just a random Doctor Who story with Santa Claus randomly thrown in. No, he was used for a reason, and that reason was excellent. The title of the episode, Last Christmas, is also very, very clever, and the reasons behind it in the episode are also well explored in terms of what Christmas means and in terms of how we all treat Christmas. That was really, really good. Again, especially with the baggage left over from Series 8 with the relationship between Clara and Danny's death. And let me just say this, since now we're in spoilers, thank God they didn't bring back Danny. Again, I didn't like him as a character very much, and I thought that his death was cool, and I didn't really want him to come back because I didn't want to keep dealing with him for a whole other season. So I'm actually really pretty glad that he's gone. And I thought that the only way they could have really made it work with him still being around was if Clara left and as the companion and she wasn't going to come back for the next season. Then it would have been cool for him to be left behind with Clara. So I'm glad about that. The dream crabs themselves were very, very cool. And the big thing about the episode was that I thought that I called the Stephen Moffat twist in terms of the ending right as soon as what the monsters were was explained by the Doctor. The dream crabs basically, like the facehuggers, wrap themselves around people's faces, inject something into their mouths, and basically eat their brains. And using an anesthetic, or like an anesthetic, as the Doctor explains, they create a dreamlike state, and they create a perfect dream environment for the person they're eating to be happy while they're being eaten. Just like an anesthetic, so that way they don't notice the pain, and that way the dream crabs can eat without being interrupted. That was fantastic, and the twist, of course, would have been, the whole thing with, the whole episode's beginning was part of the dream, and that's what I thought, and that's what it turned out to be, but just like Inception, the layers of the dream were very, very complex and subverted my expectations. This episode was more complex than I was giving it credit for while I was watching it. So that was very, very cool as well. I kind of wanted an Inception joke in there too, because the way the Doctor is explaining the layers of the dreams is very, very Inception-esque, and they make movie references anyway, so I was kind of hoping it's just like Inception, Clara. Something like that, but we didn't get anything like that. Which I'm fine with, but I thought it would have been funny. What else to cover? There's a lot to cover, but I don't know how much I want to get into here and what I should save for DFOS, if anything. The characters for the episode with the 4 people who were at the Arctic base, or the North Pole base, where the dream crabs have infested, they were likable. They weren't given a ton of depth, which was fine given the twist about who they are, and their background. I was fine with them not having a ton of depth. They get a little bit of a characterization, but again, it's not entirely focused on them, and that was fine. I liked the depth that they got, and I didn't mind them not being the most three-dimensional of characters. They're funny. They're good characters to follow. So I liked them being there. My favorite of them definitely had to be the part played by Patrick Troughton's son, and that's not really something. I forgot the guy's name, so that's why I'm referring to him in that way. And I'm sure most of you know who I'm talking about if you're big Whovians. I really liked that character. He was very, very funny. And I think there was a joke in there about him being Patrick Troughton. Something the doctor said something about him seeming familiar. I don't know. They made a joke about it somewhere. I don't really remember the specifics, but it's in there somewhere. And maybe you other Whovians out there would be able to recall it more than I have. But overall, I really enjoyed Last Christmas. I like the ending. It left itself off in a very positive, optimistic way, which not every episode of Doctor Who has been doing lately, so it was fitting for Christmas. It was a great Christmas special. It was a great Doctor Who story. The villains were great. The characters are great. The Doctor is hilarious as always. And Santa Claus himself was great in terms of being put into a Doctor Who story. Overall, I really enjoyed Last Christmas. It did have a couple of fairly major problems in terms of the Doctor not getting to deal with enough of the emotional baggage of what happened in Series 8. And the ending itself, I want to talk about this briefly. So they do an interesting kind of callback to Time of the Doctor in this visually, and this is a major spoiler. So if you haven't seen it yet, again, warning: this is probably one of the biggest spoilers of the episode. So the dream crabs keep creating different layers of dreams. So once they think they've gotten away from the dream crabs and they've killed them, they're still in a dream state, and it's just them continuing to try and fight the people they're trying to eat the brains of. And they don't truly get out of the dream state until the very, very end, with the help of Santa, who is, in the episode, explained as their subconscious's way of being optimistic and trying to escape the dream crabs and going on to celebrate Christmas. And the whole idea of Last Christmas comes from that concept of treating every Christmas like it's last Christmas, and that's why we love it so much. And Santa is meant to represent that concept. But the thing that was really, really cool, but was also a little bit of a problem, was the scene with old lady Clara. So there's this really great scene where the Doctor wakes up on some random volcano planet from the dream crab, thinking he's escaped the dream for the second to last time. And he goes to Clara to try and help save her. He gets there, and he gets the dream crab off her face, but he arrives a little bit too late, as you might find, because they explain that the dream crabs can travel through time and space, and that they might be throwing people together into a single dream state from different times, like there might be one from the Victorian era and one from the future. So basically, there's a scene where the Doctor goes into what he thinks is the present, but actually finds Clara as an old woman in her late 80s, as we suspect, given she says that it's been 62 years since she's seen the Doctor. And so put her around 89, I guess. And the Doctor finds her to be on the verge of death, and having lived a full life, though a sad life without him, and basically implying that this is the last time that they're going to see each other. It's a sad, warm, impactful scene. The two of them bounce off each other very well, and there's a great scene, and there's a great moment that I love, where they do that thing where they pull the Christmas crackers like they do in England, and which was something that happened in Time of the Doctor, and they try to pull them apart, but Clara can't do it, and the Doctor has to help her. It was a really sad moment, a really happy moment, and it was a great callback to Time of the Doctor when Clara had to do that for the Doctor when he was too old and decrepit to rip the thing apart. And he helped. It was a really nice moment. I really, really loved it. And then it turns out to be for naught, because it's not real. So I like that we still had that moment, but I thought that the dream layers went a little bit too far at that point, where I was like, oh, really? Come on, stop making me think we're in a dream, dude. I get it. And that moment was so beautiful. To find out that it wasn't real was a little bit sad. But of course, Clara's going to stay on as the companion, so I guess they couldn't have kept that moment. But it was such a great moment, I would have been fully satisfied with that being the ending. And the actual ending itself, while okay in terms of the emotions, it feels like a major anticlimax compared to that false ending. So that's a problem as well. But overall, good episode, good Christmas special fun. I highly recommend it if you're a Whovian. If you've maybe been a little bit down on Series 8, it's great and you should check it out. And I really, really enjoyed it. In terms of ranking it amongst the Christmas specials, oh boy, is it better than Time of the Doctor? I don't know about that. Again, they're completely different types of Christmas specials, and in terms of their characterizations of the Doctor and the stories they're trying to tell, I think I might have enjoyed it a little bit more because of the simpleness of the story, and Time of the Doctor tried to do a little bit too much in its time frame. Is it the best Christmas special? No, I don't think so. I think that the first Matt Smith one, A Christmas Carol, was still better, but it's pretty damn good, and a good first Christmas special for Peter Capaldi, and a good way to wrap up Series 8, and a pretty bright look on what's coming in Series 9, and a good clean slate. The only thing that's still carrying over is the search for Gallifrey, and I really hope that we finally start to put some developments on that in Series 9, and I hope that finding Gallifrey doesn't become like Peter Capaldi's last episode type of thing, where he's going to find it in the last episode and then the Doctor after that will have to deal with it. I really hope that that's not the case, but we'll see. And I look forward to the premiere of Series 9, which looks like it's going to premiere on the same day that Deep Breath premiered, maybe? So in August, maybe. We'll see. I don't even know if they've started filming it yet. We know the first episode is called The Magician's Apprentice, so we know some of it must have been written. But who knows? So Doctor Who Series 9, I'm excited. This was a good Christmas special. And that's about all I have to say about it. So, I'm not going to give it a rating because I wouldn't really know what to rate it, but I really, really enjoyed it. And that's going to do it for my review. So, in terms of brief announcements, I'd just like to point you all to my Q&A video, which is coming up on this coming Tuesday, December 30th, or we're going to do the live stream around 7:30. If you're interested in taking part and asking yours truly a question, you can jump over to the Any Questions For video, which is currently on my channel, and you can throw a question down there in the comments, and I will be sure to answer it in that video when it goes up. Again, we do the thing of, if you ask a question in advance, I answer those questions first, and I wait till the very end of the video to answer live questions. So go ahead and throw a question on there, and hopefully you'll join me for the live stream. We always have a ton of fun on those. I'll definitely have guests, SOS members, my other YouTube friends, maybe some real life friends in that live stream. So go ahead and post the question there, and be sure to tune in to the live stream on Tuesday for some fun. So I hope you guys will join me for that. And of course, always be sure to check out our weekly podcasts that we put up on the channel, including the Demons from Outer Space and the Sons of Sarazawa podcast, all part of the SOS network of podcasts, which has 3 main shows and 1 occasional show, with Demons from Outer Space, SOS podcast, Shoe Watch, which is on Andres' channel, Kaiju Noir, and SOS Interviews, which is a show we put up every now and then, and we have a couple more being planned at the moment, so be sure to check those out. And be sure to check out those podcasts. Anything else to announce? No, you'll have to tune into the live stream for more announcements on upcoming stuff I'm doing. So until next time, I'm Bill Worster, aka Zazubaar, and enjoy your tangerines, kids.